She is the wife of my first boss in Tata's, V.S. Mahesh. And the story goes, there's a wonderful dosa joint in Pune, with probably the best dosa place in the world, called Vaishali. Come on, Manju, please. Aye, welcome, welcome, namaste. Aye, aye, बैठिए. So the best dosa joint in the world I call Vaishali, and opposite that is the girls' hostel of Ferguson's College. And I and Neera were dating each other, and we were inseparable. So as soon as she was allowed to come out of the hostel, I would be waiting outside and take her to Vaishali. And as we were having our idli and coffee, in walks him and V.S. Mahesh. And I said, what are you doing here? I said, I'm having coffee and I'm having idli. He said, I don't mean that. I said, what are you doing? I said, I am about to pick up a job in the FMCG companies. He said, you are not going anywhere. You're going to join me in Tata's and help me to build the best auto company in this part of the world. And, that's how it is. Next day I went and met him. He said, go for your medical test. There was no need of an interview because I'd already done my summer job. And then I got married to Neera soon thereafter and joined Tata Motors, Telco at that time. And him and Mahesh organized this wonderful dinner for us, along with another newly married couple, Ashok and Aruna Kalle, who are dear friends who live in Toronto. And I just want to say that every month, Mahesh encouraged us young people working with him. He used to host a book conversation. He would encourage all of us to read a book. Then we would have a potluck dinner at his home. And one of us would present what we had learned from that book. So I think the love for books came from there. And of course, Mahesh wrote the first original book on human motivation, Thresholds to Human Motivation. That's what he called it. And that was many, many decades back. And here I am, his student. Now, at this part of my life, I thought it's time. And for which I have to thank Arun Jain, my dear friend whom I have known for such a long time and a co-founder of Soil and a board member. And he kept telling me, you have created this institute called School of Inspired Leadership, Soil. But when is your book on inspired leadership coming out? Because it's time you wrote the book, he said. So he nudged me. He said, you better write the book. He didn't put the other part of the sentence, which I thought he was implying, which, out of politeness, I told him, I understand what you mean. Before it is too late, before everything goes out of your conscious, own practice. So it's better you write everything down. So thank you. And you have come home to Chennai Mission. I am so very pleased that you are come to this place. If all of you have watched the movie called On the Quest, it is a life story of Swami Chinmayananda. It's available on YouTube. If you watch that, you will find at the end of the movie this young person, Swamiji.
Please continue.
Swamiji, so very nice to see you.
Please continue.
Right. Swamiji, please sit. At the end of the movie On the Quest, they show this hall, which you walked into. And Swami Tejomayanandaji, Guruji, is talking to this young seeker. Did you finally get what you were looking for on a quest? And so as soon as I walked in here, and Swami Mitrananda, in his usual creative and deeply committed way, he is the person, the spirit behind that movie On a Quest. Swami Mitrananda is a dear Guru Bhai, the most loving teacher, and the biggest exponent of what Gurudev would call dynamic spirituality. And so he comes like a wind and goes like the wind, and he inspires people to so many different places all over. And if you notice, when Modi ji's inauguration took place, and the Prime Minister and in the people who were sitting as special invitees, the Prime Minister had invited Modi ji. Modi ji had invited Swami Mitranand to be one of his special guests because he really follows him. So Swamiji, thank you very much for coming. Sandeep, you were supposed to do the formal welcome, but I was supposed to be doing the filler. But why don't you formally welcome people? Thank you.
Thank you, Anil sir.
Hari Om and evening. Good evening. My name is Sandeep Ranjan. I work with Anil sir. I take care of corporate relations and career management services. In simple words, placements. So I would like to start with a very warm welcome to our chief guest, Swami Mitrananda ji. He's the head of Chinmay Mission in South India. Our esteemed panelists for today evening, Mr. Arun Jain, founder and chairman of Intellect Design Arena, and Mr. Ramesh Mangaleshwaram, former director of McKinsey. All our distinguished guests, friends, and well wishers. We are delighted to have you here at the beautiful Chinmaya Heritage Center, Chennai, for the launch of Inspired Leader, a book by Mr. Anil Sachdev, founder and chairman of School of Inspired Leadership. Your presence makes this occasion truly special. We look forward to an inspiring evening of ideas, conversations, and celebrations. Thank you all for joining us in this beautiful evening. May I request Swami Mitrananda ji to bless the audience over here?
समस्त जन कल्याणे निरतं करुणामयं नमामि चिन्मयं देवं सद्गुरुं ब्रह्मविद्वरम्. My salutations to Anil and to everybody present here. Pranam. We have a very long association, Ancient Mission. He was also in Balvihar. Balvihar means the children's wing of the mission. I was also in Balvihar. And then there is a route. You go into Yuva Kendra and things like that, step by step. So we have a very old association. I was very happy when Anil said this book is coming up. And can it be released in Chennai? I said, easy, and that we can always do. He's one of our pride in Chinmaya Mission, who has lived the management lessons of the Gita. Bhagavad Gita is a brilliant book for your information. It is not a discussion of sannyasis. Everybody sitting here, get this point very, very clear. Bhagavad Gita is not a book where two sannyasis were discussing. Krishna was not a sannyasi. Arjuna was not a sannyasi. Both are very highly ambitious people. And they were trying to reclaim all that which was lost. In life, you go up and down, you lose things, and they were ready to reclaim. So it's a conversation between two very dynamic people. And the lessons the verses tell us is something which Anil managed to bring it into leadership training. That is something which we are very, very proud. And that's why I said Anil is one of our prides on Chinmaya Mission, who managed to bring in the Gita knowledge and bring it into management and brought it into leadership. So well done. Yeah. I have done forwards for a couple of books, and recently one book which Balasubramaniam, who works on the PMO. He's moved from that. He's moved from it. He's now with Niti Ayog. Okay. So he's bringing out a book on leadership based on the Gita. So I'm very happy that this didn't come to me. That was like this big manuscript you have to go through and all that. So I just finished it. I think next month or so that book will be released. He has also brought out brilliant lessons of management from the Gita. So it is something which is we should look into. And Gurudev demonstrated it. Maybe Anil, you should share with everybody later the classification what Gurudev has made on the Gita. I'm talking about in 1950s. You know how he has classified Gita for children. These are the verses. Gita for parenting. These are the verses. Gita for bereaved family. If there's a death, where they should look for strength. Gita for teenagers. Gita for politicians. Gita for those who have slipped in life. The kind of classification which he has done, and there you have Gita for management, Gita for leadership. So it's a wide range of topics which are covered, and it's a sad part is most of us have mistaken. We have understood. We have not understood the book, nor did we attempt to know about it. And I'm sure many of you would have decided, when I retire, I will read Gita. Yeah? When I retire, I will read Gita. I'll tell you, after retirement, read Bhagavatam, okay? Read Bhagavatam after retirement. Before retirement, to live, read Gita. It's a book for dynamic living, easy living, and the qualities will make a person naturally a leader, because you are strong mentally. You don't come under pressure. There can be any amount of pressure and you will be able to take. So these values of leadership, Gita naturally gives, and for us, Anil demonstrated it. Well done, Anil. Congratulations for your new book.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Samastajana Kalyane Niratam Karunamayam Namami Chinmayam Devam Satguru Brahma Vidvaram. I was only 5 when I met the great teacher, Swami Chinmayananda. And every moment in his presence made you a better person. In soil, we have something called GST, Gurudev Standard Time. 6:30 means 6:30. Swamiji was on the stage. And we keep telling ourselves, we have to take lessons from the way he managed time. Early morning, 4 o'clock, the light would go up. I and my father very often were standing outside his room to serve him the first cup of filter coffee. And then we would see quietly, we would withdraw and stand outside, but through the little place we could see him writing in his own handwriting letters to all the devotees from all over the world. Every day, from morning till evening. 1951 to 1993 in the physical form. But after that, his presence, which has made each one of us and millions like us become better versions of ourselves. So this book is really inspired by the teacher, whose teachings inspired me to also, along with Arun and some friends, co-create a movement which we call the School of Inspired Leadership, which is building leaders with solid character, but also the holistic systems thinking and the deep enthusiasm in the heart to serve. And so that's what the school has attempted to do. And Arun, thank you for provoking me, nor nudging me to write this book. So thank you. This particular book has 7 practices, but it begins with saying that there are 2 lies about leadership. One, that leadership is about leading others. Gurudev in his thundering voice would tell us, Mr. Manager, first manage yourself. Mr. Leader, Miss Leader, first lead yourself. He would tell us, leadership is first about leading your body and the 5 senses. What do you choose to listen to? What do you choose to observe? What do you choose to consume through taste and smell? What do you choose to perceive? All this is the way you lead your sense organs, because rather than the senses leading you. Second, how do you lead your breath? When you're breathing in, there is a stimulation from the environment. When you breathe out, there is a response to the world outside. In that moment between stimulus and response lies a conscious choice. Rather than reacting, you respond. Mhm. You may carry all through your prarabdha all the past tendencies, but rather than get biased by both conscious and unconscious biases, you have the freedom to respond and not react impulsively. This lesson from Gurudev's teachings, that you can respond, you need not react impulsively like an animal, because human beings are the ones who have the conscious capacity to respond. Therefore, if you see, all the wars in the world are caused because we react and don't respond. Centuries of misunderstandings, old conflicts, because nobody takes the conscious pause to understand and to respond. Leadership of the way you learn. Consciously, the first step of learning, and therefore is a whole chapter dedicated to that. What's the story you tell yourself about yourself when you are alone? मैं और मेरी तन्हाई अक्सर बात करते हैं. मैं और मेरी तन्हाई अक्सर बात करते हैं हिंदी में. That means in the stillness when I am alone, what's the conversation I have about my life with myself? Do I say that I am the child of God with this unlimited potential and that I have my birthright to be happy at every moment because I have happiness within? Or do I tell the story, the world is unfair to me? I did not get the right rewards for my efforts. I wish I had been born elsewhere. I wish I was raised differently. I wish I was treated differently. Half our life we spend in either chasing things that Gurudev would say or running away from things. So the story we tell ourselves, the narrative of our life, because the words that we use to describe our own lives to ourselves can either imprison us or empower us. So after saying that leadership is about leading the 5 dimensions which each then chapter explores, we say that basically it begins with the story you tell yourself about your life. Then I move to the point that it's very important to say that whenever you have done your happiest, best, whenever you have made a difference right from your childhood, your true swabhav has been at work. And Gurudev would always tell us, the gifts you have are his gifts to you. What you do with that is your gift to the Lord. So the power of discovering your gifts, what the Western psychologists say, the power of appreciative inquiry, is what we teach in the Gita, to say, understand your true swabhav and understand what your true swadharma is. Because when you are using your swabhav to make an impact to the world, your swadharma, in the context you are given, you are doing your best work. You are absolutely inspired at that moment. Then you discover your true talent, your true gifts, your true swabhav that you have been given. Then I go on further. What is the process of conscious learning? And Gurudev would say to us, in our camps which we would attend to him, he would send us for walks by ourselves. Go alone for a walk. And for those who don't enjoy being alone, he would say, if you don't enjoy your own company, why inflict it on others? And he would say to us, when you spend that quiet time with yourself, introspect. I quote the lesson of Mr. Muthuraman, my dear friend. He spends a week every month consciously for many years alone. He tells his wife Sumati, this week I need for myself. He tells his children, tells his friends, I am just going to be quiet by myself. Please come this way. And in that week, Mr. Muthuraman does what this chapter talks about. What was my sankalpa? What actually happened? What did I learn? How can I become better? My role as a father, role as a son, the role as a brother, the role as a community member, the role as a CEO of Tata's, the role also as a golfer. In his younger days, the role as a cricketer, because he opened the batting for Tata Steel, yeah, and also many tournaments. So I think Muthuraman had made this as a conscious practice, which we are told, introspection. Second part, how do you pay attention to what's going on in the present moment? Are you conscious of your thoughts? Are you conscious of your emotions? Are you conscious of your actions? Can you become and invoke what Gurudev would tell us, the Sakshi Bhav, invoke the inner witness? And then that childlike curiosity. Gurudev loved children because he said he had deep love for children because children don't have all the biases. And that helps them to stay curious. Yesterday, I had just by serendipity Kapil Dev sitting next to me for 2 hours. And I had this beautiful conversation with him that I have written about. And he said to me, Anil, एक चीज मैंने सीखी है अपनी जिंदगी में कि every day be curious about something that you want to learn. He says, the day your curiosity is over, then you are not really behaving like a human being, because he said, what is the difference? So stay curious. Then I go on to describe how do you think with the power of the whole mind. I say that the analytical is the rational, logical, but the intuitive part, which comes to you out of deep understanding of the whole, what now we call design thinking. But that holistic perspective that we are talking about, so how do you invoke the whole mind that we talk about, which it comes naturally to the great contemplative masters because they can see the whole. And it's not just showing to us the Virat Purusha like Krishna does in the Bhagavad Gita, but seeing the whole in the world and then invoking that creative and innovative capacity in you. Then I go on to describe how do you build trusting relationships? How do you listen with deep presence, by deep attention? When Gurudev used to talk to us, it's as if he was completely there only for each devotee. Each devotee felt was special. Each devotee felt he was the most loved by the Guru because he had that wonderful presence. So how do you learn from such a teacher to saying full presence with all your heart, listen? Then Gurudev gave a fantastic example of empathy. He said, Carl Rogers said empathy is about stepping into others' shoes. But he said to us, first you must learn how to get out of your own shoes. Only then you can step into somebody else's shoes. So that chapter on building trust and relationship focuses on that. Then it moves to the chapter of action. How do you consciously manage your time? How do you consciously get rid of all those things which are coming in the way between your vision and actual reality? How do you source the energy, the stamina to make things happen so that it's not knowing but also doing? Then it moves on to how do you lead with purpose? How do you overcome your ego? As Gurudev reminded us, when there is an altar in life, it will alter your life. When there is an altar in life, it would alter your life. So how do you build higher purpose? As Gurudev would tell us, don't set a goal in life which is so low, like earning a few $1 million, because if you earn that, then you think you're gone. And you may earn it very early. But he said, the goal in life is not to achieve the goal, but to striving to achieve the goal. So he would always remind us that if you are in service of a cause, and therefore he said the world's best leaders are the world's best followers. Because if you find a cause that is truly worth pursuing, then you will deeply love and you become the first servant of that cause, then leadership will automatically happen to you. Hmm? And the very last thing is, therefore, with all this done, still, what can stop you from that growth? And therefore, I talk, and that's the last chapter. I also introduce the BMI, OET, PFT model of Gurudev, to say, invoke the inner witness. And of course, Robert Keegan of Harvard is the nearest Western psychologist who comes closest to the Indian ethos when he describes that inside your mind, there is another mind that prevents you to change, what he calls immunity to change. And Gurudev always reminded us there is a lower mind and a higher mind. And he said to us, the higher mind should lovingly treat the lower mind just like an elder sibling treats with love. Don't try to force anybody to change, but lovingly bring about that awareness which will give that. So this is all. I think I've spoken more than necessary, but this is what this book is about. It's been all learned from at Gurudev's feet, but all the amazing people I got a chance to serve and work with all over the world. I'm deeply thankful. Ramesh and I go back when he was a McKinsey partner. We did a joint project together. So thank you, Ramesh, for coming. Thank you, Arun, for coming. And now I hand over to Arun. Arun is going to facilitate the dialogue and he will ask questions to each other and to Swamiji also.
No, it's okay. Thank you, Anil, for sharing the gist of the book in 7 chapters. What you have described, how your self-development can happen to inspire leadership. Anil and our relationship of nucleus started way back in 1988, almost 35 years back or 37 years back, when we invited first time on our nucleus day. A small company of 100 people. When we invited him as a chief guest to speak, he just started ECS. I think we were the almost first, second client of ECS at that point of time. And we were the smallest client ever possible for a consulting organization, for a 50% startup to say, we want a consulting help. And he helped us in setting the vision, mission statement during 1989, 1990. So that's a journey when we associated, and during the journey, one of the workshop which I always describe as a transformational movement is 1995, a transformational leadership workshop at Dharamshala, where Anil Prasad Kaipa and Dinesh Chandra, and Peter Block, not Prasad Kaipa, 3 of them, 3 gurus together. I get an opportunity to have a workshop with some 12 CEOs. Vikram Lal, Anu Aga were invited in the same workshop. And I was the youngest in that company of accomplished CEOs, where we spent 3 days time. And that was a night when he did a workshop around fire to get your own inhibition or blockages out. Was a moment of releasing some of the inner dilemmas, and that is the transformational movement personally for me in my journey of building the various organizations from nucleus to Polaris and then to Intellect now. So that's just about my relationship with Anil, who written this book, and I genuinely believe that he should share his journey in writing rather than only in verbose and workshops, which is there. And thank you, Anil, to put that into the words. As soon as you translate into words, and those words become long-lasting and everlasting. And that was important for big journeys of yours to come into. The benefit of many people, because these words can be interpreted by many people very differently. I'll start the conversation with Anil on some of the connecting the dots between various chapters he is going through, and a few questions I'll put it, and then Ramesh, if you have some questions, Ramesh will put some question to Anil, and then questions will be open to the audience to ask Anil any questions you have. So, just to kickstart the question sessions with Anil about the book, the chapter 1 you are talking about telling a life story to yourself. It's a very, very interesting way of normally you don't start leadership book from telling a life story. So I look at the book from two angles. One is a lot of the leadership books start from purpose first and then telling the story last. Even if you want to order the book in the manner, you first tell leadership should have this purpose in life, and then you say, now you tell the story back. What is the choice you made to describe these 7 chapters in this order? The first is life story, and then.
Sure. And I would like you to share from your own story because, Ramesh, for example, when you were very young, something must have been inside your own heart bubbling up. And you were saying something to yourself, not just that you went to prestigious schools to study and joined a prestigious firm, but something you may have been sharing, the words that you used to share when you were alone to yourself must have helped you to define who you are from a young age. Why don't you share? And I like, Arun, you also to share because it's not, I'm thinking each one of us has got the potential to be the most inspired leader sitting in this room. So you share, and you are amazing. Meenakshi sitting behind you, who is just taking over as the.
Usually I sit behind her.
Yeah.
Okay, so,
And, she is just taking over from Monday as the head of Pratham, the very respected, NGO in the country that I'm sure everybody has heard of. So, but Ramesh.
Yeah, but the hindsight is a very interesting thing. I can now sit and say all of this happened the way it happened, and which I think is untrue. So I will not say it that way. Anil and Arun and Swamiji, what I will say is that you are shaped by the environment that you grow up in, and therefore you're shaped by a lot of individuals who play a role. I mean, when you look back and you do the reflection that you said, there are people that visit you. Now, it could be coincidence, it could be ordained that those people visit you in your life, and each of them leave a little imprint on you and who you become. So, I mean, if I look at the life choices that I made, I can almost attribute those life choices to somebody who inspired me to make those life choices. I think the first life choice I made was choosing to stay back in India in 1989. I mean, in fact, I grew up in Hyderabad, and the rumor on the street was I had failed at IIT, because why would an IIT graduate in 1989 not go abroad? In fact, so I used to visit the Chimya ashram at Powai, which was a walk from my hostel. And the joke then used to be that when people got into IIT, their minds would go to the US and the bodies will follow 4 years later. So that used to be the joke. And if that one decision, which frankly made a lot of other decisions easier, was inspired by my grandmother, my maternal grandmother, I think. And I still remember she was a amazingly wise lady, did not go to school, but and I would have long chats with her. And she said she had 5 boys. 4 of them went abroad. 1 went to Delhi. And she said, what am I doing? What did I do wrong that when I need them, they're not with me? And I think that had a profound impact on me. For me to shut off what was probably the most viable option, because there were no jobs. Remember, if we go back to 89, there was no IT industry, no banking industry, no multinationals. Liberalization had not happened. I mean, the first best job was Tisco in Jamshedpur. The equivalent job was Telco in Pune. I mean, there were 2.5 jobs. There were 2.5 jobs for engineers in this country then. So I don't want to take any credit for it. I think, my grandmother made me make one decision. And then I can go on and on. I mean, Meenakshi sitting here, I came back from the US. Again, very counterintuitive, 1999. I was asked to stay in the US. I was told you'll get your green card, you'll become a partner at McKinsey. my colleagues in India said, don't come. This is the most stupid thing you can be doing because this is a difficult market. You have to go find work. People don't give work in India. You're sitting in a big market called Chicago. So just stay there. And there I have to give credit to my wife. I mean, her father was unwell. And she said, if we don't go back to India at this point in time, we should never regret that we didn't go back. And life. So my own view is there are many crossroads that happen in one's life. At every crossroad, we make a choice. We should reflect on why we make those choices. I think a long answer to a short question. And you were talking about introspection. So in McKinsey, we used to do this thing, and I think you and I have done this together with some of our clients. We used to call this autobiographic episode interviews, which is you go into your life as an autobiography, and and one of the things that they ask you to reflect on in an autobiographic episode interview is to look at forks in the road that were presented with you, and why did you take the fork that you took? What were the two forks, and why did you take the fork that you took? And I can list many forks in my life, including the most recent fork. I could have gone on in McKinsey for longer. I chose to leave McKinsey when I did. That was a fork. And why did you make the choice you made? So I think that all of us go through forks. All of us make choices at forks. We should reflect on how we made those choices and who influenced us to make those choices. Now, I'm not getting into the argument that those choices are made for us, but for a moment, let's assume that we also make those choices. Thank you. Thank you.
It's a good way to put the question back to me. Ramesh, the two things. 83, when I passed out from the engineering college, the story which I tell that if my father had 10 kids and we are 10 siblings, if he can support me for getting my engineering education, why do I need to go to US? I had a green card when I passed out. So it was, everybody in college was saying, it's a day zero, you have a green card and you are deciding to stay back. Second similarity, I got a telco job on the day zero. So these are the two similarities with Ramesh, and both of them I denied. I said, let's try with Yogesh and Vishnu to try our luck on doing something as an entrepreneurship. That time entrepreneurship didn't used to exist as such, but we just tried. Second incident which happened on story is in 2002, Manju took out my diary, which was written in 1985. I used to write diary in 1985, and from the all old, so as a cleanup mode, when you're cleaning up old mess, then you pulled out one diary from the 2085, and then she was flipping the pages, and one page I was written in sometime in US. I want to become a chairman and managing director of a public listed company. Now in 1985, I didn't know about the public listed company. What does it mean? Because I just 2 years from the college. What does chairman means for public listed company? But so clearly written on the top with underline on it. And from where this thought came at that time, and I had forgotten about the thought, and that didn't remain with me. But it was a subconscious mind somewhere which driven that, and it was written in, even time window was there, 10 years, 19, first of all, as a middle class person, we don't have any money, nothing else, no family background to say public listed company. And you're saying, I'm becoming 10 years. It took 14 years, but 1999 company went public. So this is these two instances I show.
I want to narrate the story of Dr. James Doty, the man who invented the Center for Altruism in Stanford. Unfortunately, we lost him last year. Dr. James Doty, the finest neurosurgeon in the world, also the emissary of His Holiness the Dalai Lama. James had a very bad childhood. An alcoholic father, a mother who couldn't take care of herself, who had gone into chronic depression. But at the age of 12, he went into a magic shop. Children go into a magic shop. There, a woman called Ruth met him. What's your name? And began to talk to him and said, come and talk to me if you are here living nearby. Come. I am here every day at the shop. Probably her son owned the shop. She began to talk to him. And she began talking to him that today you are telling the story of yourself, that you have an alcoholic father and a depressed mother, and don't know what to do. You are lost. But that's the mind telling you that you are lost. You are not lost. Take responsibility for your life. What do you enjoy doing? In those 3 weeks, every day, this very kind woman called Ruth, which the Lord sent into James Doty's life, began to ask him the right questions at the age of 12. And this man said, I started learning about the power of saying that I am not what my mind is telling me. My circumstances given to me is not who I am. What I do with these circumstances is what will define who I am. He began to study. He studied in the most prestigious school, went on to top the school, went on to become the most brilliant surgeon ever. And when I went and met him at his Stanford Center, the loving kindness I experienced from James Doty, and you must watch the interview that I did with him on YouTube on the story of his life. I describe his story about one of the most unusual stories. And his book that he wrote on altruism was converted into a K-pop song in Korea, which went on to become the best song. It was on the #1 list for months together. The Korean young band got inspired by what he writes in his book. So, and James Doty always said to me, when he came to know I am a student of Gurudev, he said, now I know what your work is about. So this is where this whole thing was talking about. So anyway, the words that we use have a very profound impact on the way we lead our life. And yes, sanskars. But Swamiji, from a young age, I also interviewed you. Where did this journey start for you?
Checking. Force. As a child, I was compelled to attend Swami Chinmayananji's lecture. High philosophy, 5-year-old, 6-year-old I can't understand anything, but we're compelled because they can't leave me alone at home. So first few years, it was like total force. You don't understand much. But when we go to meet him, of course, that was a different thing. He'll give you a chocolate. He may tell a story. But lectures, my starting point was aversion, okay? Because they forced it on me. And you like to play as a child. But then somewhere as a teenager, once again, I reconnected. There was a gap. Reconnected, and I could find different kinds of answers. We have many questions in life, and one of the strong questions most people will have is why me? Why things are not fair on me? I didn't do much, but I get the stick very often. Why? Why me? That kind. So these kind of questions, and he was spot on in answering. Like, you can't blame anybody else. You need to analyze. You need to think why this happened to you. And it triggered. We connected. And the best part of Swami Chinmayananji's teaching is he was a non-believer. That was the biggest advantage the world had. Since he was a non-believer, when he presented something, his mind and his presentation would be, what are the questions non-believers would have? And he would address that. And therefore, it came very convincing to the believers. This is what was Swami Chinmayananji's main strength in convincing people. So, any of those kind of questions, if you have, and casually, when he's talking, he would answer. And that made it. And at some point of time, I thought I should commit myself to him, because a very powerful presence. I've never experienced that kind of a thing. Like Anil suggested, I mean, he said earlier that there's a chapter on the presence, right? He was one of those rare persons, rare. And I see that quality to some extent in the Prime Minister, Narendra Modi, that when he speaks to you, the rest of the world doesn't exist. He will give you full attention. That means the mind is empty, blank, and sit with you, absolute full attention. When somebody of divine gives you that kind of an attention, then the transformation happens. The presence said, with a master, the more you learn being around him, then through his lectures. Anyway, I started with aversion. So, not the lectures, but being around him was very, very inspiring. He'll pick up small things and correct. And then it changes. And the man was, I'll take maybe another 2 minutes to, this would be a good lesson to everybody. This man had a very large heart to accommodate. We were a bunch of youngsters, members of Chennai Yuva Kendra. One day we had a fancy thought that when he comes to town, we will take a motorcycle and go, escort his car to the center, to the place where he was staying. We just 5-6 of us casually thinking, and we said, let's do it. And we first approached the trustees that time and said, can we do this? Or we'll take the motorcycle, his car would be there, and it'll be like a motorcade, pilot's car, escort, whatever. All of them unanimously said, nothing doing, you can't do it. You guys can knock somebody down on the road. Anything can go wrong. No, strictly no. Teenagers don't think deeply. So we said, no, we'll do it. Let them say, we'll go to the airport and we'll park our bikes in that where the bikes have to be parked. As his car is leaving the airport, we'll take the formation, we'll do it. We did. Not sure what is going to come out on reaching. Whether he's going to like it or whether he's going to say, why did you do it? What others are going to say. Like 18 years, 19 years. We did. When we reached his house and we got down from the bikes and one of us went to open the car, that was good. That was his way of complimenting. You guys managed to bring me at least 15 minutes before. Because of that. And immediately all those previous day, whoever was saying, no, don't go, don't do it, were after us saying, now please. You guys come, make sure you do it. Like anywhere. He was here for 10 days that time. So we were doing it. My point here is, not many masters would allow this. Because it's rash. Anything can happen. We can knock somebody down. Imagine the press and the reporting and the paper and the media all claiming like, why Swami Chinmayananda wants something like this? If we were careless, it would hurt the reputation. But he, 87. Okay, 86, 87. And he allowed, he said, do it. because that was our craze, and he could accommodate us with that craze. And he knew with him, if you were around, you will change. So if it is the bike crazy you are, come be with me. 7-8 days, it made a tremendous impact, because wherever he went, we were there. We could closely observe him talking, his vision, his action, his practice, everything. Like, you don't get to closely observe. So we could do that. And the last day, we were extremely sad that this 10-day stay in Chennai is over. He's leaving now, and we would miss him. So I opened the door, and he was walking into his room. I opened the door, and he saw me, and he knew that we were all quite sad. He looked and said, tomorrow onwards, you escort your mind towards him. If obstacles come, say move. They will obey. End of studying afterwards, when I joined the monastery, studied the Upanishads and all that, in the end, you understand this is the gist. The mind has to be escorted. At any point of time, the mind has to be escorted. Casually, he was saying, escort your mind towards him. Motorcycle, he called us escort. I said, escort your mind towards him. If obstacles come, say move. They will obey. With deep strength, you say no to something, it is no. With deep strength of absolutely focused mind, you say move. The obstacles disappear. This was him. He could know to talk to a child, he would know to talk to a teenager, but the impact he makes stays with you for life. And you change. Thank you, Swamiji. Thank you very much. Arun, back to you.
Just one question before I give to audience is that you wrote about purpose. Now, a lot of time the question comes that you are big, you can, all only big people can have a purpose. How do you say middle manager the role of a purpose?
That conversation on purpose begins with asking three simple questions. Who are the people in your own life who matter to you? For Gurudev, the entire humanity mattered. For Gandhi, the whole of the country mattered. For Dr. V. Kurian, with whom we did a lot of work in Amul, the farmers mattered. For some people, they answer it in very simple, I and my family matter. Then that becomes the kshetra. Because that everybody says, I and my family. So who are the people who matter? The second, slightly closer. Second, what are their needs that you are inspired to serve? Because the key to happiness that Gurudev would talk about, and we all know that, and there is enough science behind this to show, the key to happiness is when you find something worthwhile to do to create positive impact, to serve. But at a young age, you may think of an entrepreneurial idea and you say that is what matters. But behind that, there is a desire to improve lives of people, whether it's a software or it's a great FMCG product or anything. There is some, you are seeing some need of society and you're coming out with something to matter. When you're working inside a company, you are saying, how can I make a bigger contribution to my context? Because you are wanting to create positive impact. That's the very endeavor of all human beings. So what are the needs of people who matter to you that you are inspired to serve? Not because it's being forced on you, but something from within says, I want to do this. And the third part is the swabhav that you have, the uniqueness you have been blessed with, the gifts that you have, because every human being is unique. No one person is like the other. What is your own uniqueness that you can leverage to serve the needs of people who matter to you? Because when you have defined your kshetra, the people who matter, and you are paying attention to the needs of society which you want to serve, then how can you use your own uniqueness, your svabha, to serve those needs? When you connect these at a young age, it may be something very simple. When I was a Yuva Kendra person, we created something in our army cantonment called Dehu Youth Forum. My entire family was at war. Brother was in Kashmir sector. Brother-in-law was in the Khulna sector with Mukti Bahini. My other brother-in-law was also in the western sector. They were all at war. And I, being a son of an army officer, I told my 17-year-old self, my whole family is there. My dad was in the ordnance depot. What can we do? I and my colleagues, we said, let's write a play. So I wrote a play in Hindi and went to Film Institute people in Pune saying, will you act in this play? And they accepted. And then we sold tickets at 5 rupees a ticket and collected 5,000 rupees and donated to the Jawans' families. As a teenager, the question was, what matters to me is all these soldiers and their lives. What are their needs? Because many of them are going to lay their lives down. And I knew that how those days, with very modest pensions, many of the martyrs' families would not be able to take care of themselves. And we thought even if we can do something to support their families, that is what matters. And I said, how can I use? God has given me this gift. I can express, I can write, and I have this purity of heart given by Gurudev. Gurudev always told us, never think that you are less than any other human being. Like a tiger, he would go and tell us, go there. Don't think you are limited. So as a 17-year-old, I believed Gurudev. Not limited. So let's go. So Film Institute people said, who are these young kids? How come they have written a play? But we did that and we went and raised 5,000 rupees and it was one of the happiest moments of my life. And that it taught to me at that moment. And when this conversation with Gurudev, that what's the purpose of your life emerged, and I said, I want to contribute to India's economic development without spiritual impoverishment. And in my interview with V.S. Mahesh, Hem Mahesh is sitting here. The reason I was selected even as an intern by the Tatas was because I told them this is what I want to do in my life. I want to work in industry. I want to contribute to India's economic development. And I want to use what I have learned from Gurudev and the talent given to me to really serve the needs. So I think these things can evolve over time. Your purpose can get redefined over time. But if you ask with the fundamental questions, that are 3 questions that I talked about, I think and what I would say, listen to the knock from within. Don't get confused by momentary pleasure and satisfaction compared to what truly matters, what gives you real joy, and what makes the world better. When young people are fortunate to receive a blessing of these kinds of questions early in their life, I think it begins to get revealed. So that's what I would say. Yeah, thank you.
The time to ask is any questions to Anil?
Yes, go ahead, Manikanda.
There is one place I got a little bit confused. Something like the question was, sir, to become a effective or good facilitator, you mentioned about 5 things, sir. One is active listening, helpful questioning, freedom free from bias, and co-creating goals. But when I looked at this, the place where I get confused was helpful questioning. When we ask questions, our intention is good, but sometimes this guy is asking more questions. People take it the other way. So asking helpful questions becoming a little bit challenge for us because we ask with the right intention, but it is taken in the other way. Is there any tips or any guidance to improve the helpful questioning parts?
See, you have to pay deep attention to the people in the room that you are trying to host a conversation with. You have to look into their eyes and find out what's going on in the presence of Gurudev or Ramana Maharishi. Without your even speaking a word, the master knew what's going on. We can't be like Gurudev straight away, but we can learn from that. But Swamiji talked about when you are giving complete attention, you know what's going on in the hearts of the people who are present there. And then you ask questions to understand, not to be understood. You are asking questions to understand and appreciate what's the struggle they are going through. So when you are paying complete attention, you are even paying attention to what people are implying and not just speaking. Therefore, your questions come from a deep place. And that is the journey of a facilitator. First, you will look at obvious things and ask the obvious questions, but soon you are paying attention to the complete person. And you are paying attention to what people are not speaking rather than what they are speaking. So the questions you are asking is coming from a deeper place, and the questions are always open-ended. You don't have any structure and an agenda in mind that you are trying to ask a question to confirm your view. You are asking a question to truly listen to what matters to the others. So that's why I talk about helpful questioning, because giving answers is very easy. As a manager, you give answer to your people, they will keep on dependent on you. But the moment you ask questions, then people are building their own capacity to discover for themselves. But let me tell you, it's more difficult, because giving answers is very easy. But asking the right questions till you get the right answers for yourself, I think requires a huge amount of skill. And sometimes when I coach these different CEOs, I struggle with this, because I know this ought to be the answer, but who am I giving the answer? That leader has to figure for herself. So I think that's where it comes from, this the helpful questioning. Yeah. Ashokan, my dear friend from Aishar. Yes.
I'm actually more privileged than many in this room because I've known Anil for the last 42 years.
Yeah.
He's been my mentor, my guide, my friend, and my colleague, and everything. So they've been always, I've been always inspired by him. And many of things in my life has been decided in consultation or in collaboration with him. And that's how my career has spanned out. So I still remember way back in 1990, 91, used to, in a program, we wrote, what could be the purpose of your life? Since purpose was being discussed, everybody can write their purpose. Why are you existing? So after a lot of deliberations and this thing, seeing inside, I wrote a line on that day. And the program was like, you create something, and then thereafter, if you want to change the statement as you go along, you can continue to change. That's how things used to be. But then this particular statement has stood for all along, all the years with me now. So it's about to create a life full of joy and happiness for self and all around me by learning, caring, and sharing. Now, this defines your life, see yourself and look at it. So there have been many such instances I can talk about Anil. I always wanted to, at some point of time, I wanted to become like Anil. The only thing which I could manage so far is only this. So a few anecdotes which I make remember Anil always, or rather it will be a lesson for everyone. To become a leader, you need to become a follower first. You need to believe in yourself. So number one is believe in yourself is something which I learned from him. And if you don't believe, nobody else. So that's the first lesson. Second is, many of you would vouch this. Always see the good in others. You can criticize. Everybody can criticize, but you're leaving bad blood. And when you see good in others, you are giving a goodwill, and also the other person is going to build on it, and he is going to become better, and ultimately he'll become the best. But if you see the bad, or if you see the shortcomings, then he will be down the level. And even if you had to give a feedback, you'll say there is an opportunity for improvement rather than saying that you need to change this. The other thing is always about Anil is he'll engage everyone. And with the Kathy Dennemiller, he also found a way to engage the entire workforce in any company, even if there are thousands, even in a town hall, through a large scale interactive process to get everybody and then get everybody's view on, so that everybody feels that I'm being listened to and I am there. And that's something which is great, which he brought to the Indian industry. He will tell all of us three things you remember: be mindful, be conscious, and be grateful. And what you are today is not only your own making, and you had a lot of blessings. Count your blessings so that you're able to transform yourself, as well as you have to transform everybody around you. Finally, what I learned from him, though he doesn't say that, but what I learned from him is that any role that you take, live, not just play that role. By just not living that role, many of us miss out, right? It's not playing. If I'm there 100%. I've never seen Anil absent-minded, or I've never seen Anil saying something and then changing it, or saying something and says, no, sorry, I said wrong. So I think it happens only because that he is there 100% of the time. So thank you, Anil. Thank you for being my mentor, my guru, and everything what you have created for me in my life. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Ravi Chandran wants to say something. IIT Madras, 76 batch.
Yeah.
Recruitment when I came to IIT to hire on behalf of Telco Pune.
I thought you'd let me say that. So,
Okay.
first, sir, I take from what you said. Crossroads applies, I think, to all of us. In my life, all my choices, starting from getting into IIT when I was 15 years old to my 33rd year, was made by others. And after that, some decisions I made on my own. That shows that, the minimum maturity level, God goes with you until you are able to make your own choices. So the crossroads is absolutely vital and applies to me. I thought of the crossroads in my life as you were talking. One such crossroads was Anil. So when I was 21, he gave me my first job. Big crossroad. And that took me to IIM Ahmedabad and so on. I'll cut that story short. The other thing is that gentleman talked about ability to participate and ask questions. There are two top management seminars that Anil has conducted for me in my life. In the first one, I remember that he used to conduct sessions wherein there are three types of audiences. Maybe you recall. One is a very kind audience. The other is a neither here nor there. The third is a hostile audience. So I think what the gentleman was talking about, that I want to ask questions, but I find the reception is not very positive. So I think the lesson I take from listening to him and what you had given us in our journeys is that we have to be sensitive to the fact that there are these types of audiences all the time. So how do I fit in my participation, notwithstanding, and if I'm able to cut across and communicate, whatever the nature of audience, that's a big deal. So just some random thoughts I thought I'll share. Yeah.
PhD and has written a book on how to do a PhD. So it's very interesting.
Any other question with Anil? More.
Yeah, Bal.
Yeah, I just raised them the name when we came in here. Maybe trivia, but way back in '92 when I joined iShirt, we started with 7 habits, then McKinsey's 7S. So we're talking about 7 practices here. Is there any significance to this number 7?
Besides the fact that 7 is considered in many ways, in the colloquial language, 7 I was not even conscious that it was 7 till I wrote the book. When I started counting it, it turned out to be 7. And actually, I was not consciously writing the book because of 7. But later on, I counted whatever I had to say. Let me tell you a story behind this book. I interviewed these 53 leaders during COVID. Arun was one of them, and Swami Mitrananda was another. So I first gave a proposal to Penguin that I will write a book based on the stories of these 53 leaders. James Doty was one of them. They said, very good. I presented my manuscript. They said, we don't want this because you have written all about their lives. We didn't give you this contract to write a book, to write their stories. We want you to talk about your experience, what you have learned, and what you have blessed to learn from these wonderful people. And we want you to present your framework. Somewhere you can use an example of these leaders, but we want you to give what have you learned out of life? On what do you mean by inspired leadership? So use your thinking and define that what you have learned. Don't present it as their stories. So I had to rewrite the whole manuscript. When I wrote the manuscript down and I presented, then they said, wow, this is the 7 practices that have emerged. So this is how it was. And you as an author, you are always your worst critic. You say your book is not good enough, it's still not good. Then I said to Gurudev one day, I said, Gurudev, this is what you have made me write. This is it. I am now sending this. And they presented it to their editorial team. They said, this is a fantastic book. We love it and we want to publish it. Because I completely gave up that thinking about, am I worthy of writing a book? Because as an author, the limited mind begins to question, is there something original you are saying? And those people, so for example, there's a part of the book where I write TQM, right? The editorial committee sent me, what is TQM? I said, come on, you all know what TQM. No. We want you to define that. So I found myself, okay, we need to define everything that is there. Yeah, Ramesh, you want to say something?
I agree. I haven't deeply researched leadership like you did, but just reflecting on this conversation, 2 things that I wanted to say is, one is performance is potential minus interference. I'm an engineer, I'll give you an equation. Potential is infinite. And the trick to unlocking performance is really to identify interferences. Guruji said that there are lots of internal interferences, there are a lot of external interferences. Sometimes the best thing you do with an external interference is you let it be. And therefore, focusing on interferences helps unlock performance is one. And then 2 is all of us are shaped by leaders around us. So if I were to look at leaders that influenced me and helped me become who I am, the best leaders were people who made you feel like you did it. I think this concept of servant leadership, it's talked a lot, but servant leadership really means a leader who is completely ego-free. And allow me to just sort of take a minute because I owe my professional career to a handful of people. One of them we lost last year, Tino Puri, who brought McKinsey to India. And I was just telling my wife, this man, he needn't have done what he did. He came to India. He hired people from local schools. Clients said, what are you doing? We can hire these people themselves. And he said, wait, give them a chance, give them a chance. He took us to meetings that we need not have gone to. And he made it seem like we did it. When the chairman meeting, we were with him in the meeting, and then on the way back, he made it seem like we did it. And he gave us the confidence to become who we are. So when we talk about our own leadership, I think it's important to acknowledge the hand of some servant leaders who have touched us and learn from those servant leaders because they have made us who we are. Thank you.
Absolutely right. Very well said, Ramesh. Yeah.
Last question.
Maybe
9 minutes more.
9 minutes more. Okay. So 2-3 questions we can have.
I don't have any questions per se, but actually I'm reminded of a statement which I used to hear for a very long time. There are 2 types of books. Books for an hour and books for ever. I think this particular book, Inspired Leader, comes to the later. I think all credit should go to Anil ji for that. It's forever, number 1. 2, I thought this book should be consumed only by the student of management school or anything. No, for any practicing managers or for any individual for that matter, as you rightly said, the leadership is all starts from self. I think in order to lead oneself, this book is a wonderful manual, I could say. As Swamiji rightly said, Gita is a manual for life. The inspired leader is a manual for leadership. I think Anilji is able to bring the leadership to a very, very greater heights. And more importantly, I could see a lot of academic rigor and robustness you have brought in bringing so much of studies and literature. I do not know how much you have found time to go through that. You have brought Gerard Egan there. You have mentioned about Carl Rogers. You have talked about Charles Duhigg. You spoke about James Clear. You spoke about B.H. Frog. And also you brought all Indic wisdom also there. Annamaya Gosha, Pranamaya Gosha. I think you are able to bring a 360-degree view of the entire universe as such to talk about the entire leadership. I think this all happened because you actually grew by the direct blessings of Swami Maharaj, Chinmayananda Ji. In fact, he wanted to get this done, the book on leadership, for which he has chosen you. I think the purpose of life for Swami Chinmayananda Ji is to identify you, spot you, inspire you, influence you. That really made you to work in different places. In fact, no other company you have left unseen, rather. The entire Indian diaspora, I think you were able to talk about all companies for that matter, be it Mahendra, Tata, Eicher. Again, in the South, TVS, you brought all those companies there. I have not seen any HR leader who have got a complete immersion of the entire corporate diaspora. I think you alone have that, Anilji. I completely salute. More importantly, I have really seen how soil actually functions. I was actually one of the faculty members for almost 5 years. In fact, I was total surprised I got the Long Association Award, which I never expected that. Every floor has got the values, the mindfulness, the compassion, the ethics, the diversity. You have to go to every floor. I used to go there, feel the presence of it, the mindfulness, the compassion. So Anilji did not speak about all that just as a verbiage. Actually, he lived that. He walked that completely. I am also one of the witnesses to that, the entire the movement. It's not an institution. I could say it's a movement that what Anil has built in. I think I am very, very proud to have associated with this soil and also quite happy and grateful to Anilji for having given this invitation. And today, actually, I came right after my vacation. I made it happen today, right? Despite notwithstanding my tiredness, I even came early thanks to the traffic portion of that. Thank you so much, Anil. Love you, Anil, for the wonderful.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Well, a lot of alumni from Soil are here. So for a few minutes, I think the alumni may want to say something and want to ask something and want to share something, I think.
Thank you, sir. With my wife, Divya, I was.
Yeah. So, to meet your best friend. I was talking about you all the way, and
Thank you so much. I was talking about you all the way and the way soil curriculum has been framed and all that. And my wife, she has always questioned as to how come a 1-year program can trump most of the top tier colleges. I've seen the products. She has seen my friends and met my friends. The quality with which we speak and the content that we speak, she has always appreciated for that thought process. And I always owe my career to you, Ms. Anil sir, because I don't think I would have found my calling in HR had I not joined the university there. And it's such a pleasure. And I can't wait to read your book. And we had a very long day at office today, and that's why we were late. But then I'm like, I'll march on no matter what. I just want to come meet Anil Sachdev, sir. So I was telling her that I'll be starstruck the moment I come see you. And fortunately, even though we were last, we were able to come sit next to you. Thank you so much for that.
The last gets the best. Okay, one more question. Anyone else? Any of the younger people in the room? Yes, Balaji, go ahead. Bala.
Thank you so much. And Anilji, I think we share one commonality. My first boss was V.S. Mahesh too.
That's right.
And we talked about questioning. And I'd like to share one of the anecdotes. My job interview with Indian Hotels, because he was the head of HR there, was with my interview lasted for almost 45 minutes. And almost 35 minutes we talked about the Tanjore temple, the Brihadishwara temple. And I said, okay, fine, I think I've lost it. And I went on with my life. And almost after 2 months, when we were having our final examinations, I get a call letter from Indian Hotels saying that I've been selected. I'm supposed to present. It was a complete shock. And coming from a conservative family, it was a big challenge whether I could join the Taj group of hotels, because I had an offer from TVS. So my parents were very clear. It is TVS you will join, because conservative, how are you going to, and what are you going to do in a hotel? But nevertheless, that aside, took the conscious decision to join Taj. And I didn't meet Mahesh initially, because I was posted in the South. We had our induction, and for 6 months, we are actually in operations. So I met him almost after a year. And I asked him, I said, sir, I thought I will never, get the job, but we spoke only about my hobbies, which was temple architecture. So he says, Bala, I was not questioning your knowledge. I was questioning and trying to understand your mind. If curiosity is the basis of learning, your conversation demonstrated that. And that stood instead for me right through my career. Because when I start to interview candidates, what I've started to do, or I continue to do, is to try and understand them rather than trying to understand what they know. So, is one other inspired leader. I think we share that same common belief in him, and I thought I should share that here.
Thank you. Thanks a lot.
So I have a curiosity question.
Sure.
Looking at the 7 practices, which one you felt was very difficult to practice? Or maybe the interviews you had and you felt it was difficult?
The last practice, which is of observing your own mind, invoking the inner witness, the Sakshi, because the mind is preventing you to change. And now observing that, and then saying, how do I bring about the change? How do I then surrender to something beyond the mind? It's not easy for people to understand that, because we are so much full of only knowing and doing. We are so much full of only knowing and doing that we are not able to get that pure awareness of just being. So when Gurudev would guide us on the path of contemplation, he would say to us, in action be just, and in contemplation just be. In action be just, and in contemplation just be. And he would remind us that if you were leading a principled life, then the mind would be at rest. But because you keep on asking this question that did I do this right? I wish I had done something else, because your own mind is telling you what you did was not appropriate. You were not in some sense just. So I think that's the most difficult thing to really practice that. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you, Anil, for contributing to the humanity by writing a book, which will be helpful for humanity to understand, and connecting the various knowledge in a fashion which can, if it is applied appropriately, build up a better human intelligence in coming years and coming decades. So, and thank you for coming over here to Chennai. Having a one-to-one conversation with you always is more than a lecture or more than a workshop. So this book release itself become a workshop by itself. Thank you very much, Anil. Thank you, Ji Mitranji. After a long time I met you, but it's so phenomenal. Your presence has made a difference to the entire. Thank you, Ramesh, for
Thank you, Meenakshi.
contributing the real.
Thank you, John. So please join us for what promises to be a sumptuous meal with all the wonderful Tamil food that at least I love very much. I don't know about you. So please join us for that so that we can all be part of that. Yes. Thank you very much. Sir, 2240. Sure.
I would like to meet my wife.
Yes. No, that's okay. You must have been busy at work.
I'll see you later.
Seeking your attention, the food is on the first floor.
Food is on the first. Of course. All the books. Does anyone have a accident and get it? Will you get the book also in the picture? Yeah. The book is there behind. Mario, how are you? Radhika, so nice to see you. For all those days, my mind is going to that moment. I have written your story. Okay, 1 minute. I just want to introduce you to the person about whom I write in the book, Radhika Krishna Kumar. Swami Chinmayananda Gurudev achieved Mahasamadhi, and we were all at Siddhbadi, the place where the body was given Bhu Samadhi. The sun was going down, and Radhika and I were watching the sun go down, and she turned to me and said, Anilji, I have found what I'm going to do in my life. She said, I'm going to start writing books. I'm giving up my software work and I'll write the book for children. She wrote these story books for children. At the end of every story, there is a question that the teacher engages with the class. What would you do in this situation? Do you know the series of books called the Garden of Life series broke all records for books ever sold in India. The Guinness Book, the highest selling book series ever. And she had made a sankalpa that all the money will be donated to Chinmay Mission. Entire. So this story I heard from our well-wishers that for some reason, her husband's business went down south and they had to even mortgage their home. And the check came of royalty of 50 lakhs, right? But without thinking and blinking even once, the check was straight away given to Guruji before the sankalpa was made. This is Radhika Krishna Kumar. To me, she is the inspired leader this book talks about. And I write this story in the book. So she is the person, So that Radhika, I just wanted to say, she and I did our first leadership workshop together for the first cohort of ISB. so that's where it is. Yeah.
I have only one thing to say about him. I was asked to address about value education directly to Adi Godrej and his team. And Anil ji was right there. I was in my 20s and he was not very much older. And Adi was in some strange mood of challenging everything I said. And he came to my rescue so amazingly. I mean, only he could. I was floundering. I thought I was a good speaker till then, but Adi decided to break my, idea flow into pieces. The way he handled it, I realized this is an inspired soul made for another league.
You can see we are very fond of each other.
Yes. No, but everything I've said about him, I've had some of the finest years of my life with him, working for him. He would call me from Delhi, Bombay. I would just go from Chennai, leaving my younger son, who was a very tiny baby, because Anil was more important at that time than him.
No, thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Anil.
Thank you. Come, let's have. Of course, of course.
Yeah.
Yeah, we can take it one of you. Later, anything. We can take it here. Want to take it in the hall? What we can take it here also, Gurudev. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Welcome, welcome.